guys, welcome to my channel. I am Nazia and this is day one of a brand new React series. So if you have been wanting to learn React but every tutorial throws you straight into the deep end, this series is for you. We are starting from absolute zero and building all the way up to real production ready apps, one clear step at a time. And today it is all about the foundation that we'll cover. We'll cover the fundamentals and no prior React is needed. So just let's get into it. Let me walk you through the topics we'll cover today so that you know where we are headed. We'll cover what React is and why teams everywhere use it. Then the prerequisites so you know exactly what to brush up on before React makes sense. After that, we'll set up a real project. And then the fun part is we'll actually write code, components, and JSX and see how your app shows up on the page. So let's get started with what is React. To put it in a simple language, it is a library of JavaScript that is used to build modern UI out of components that are reusable. And it was created by Meta, which is a team behind Facebook and Instagram. And it is now one of the most popular ways to build for the web. The key idea is on the right here that think about any app you use. Okay, there is an app bar, there can be a sidebar, a content area. So in React, each of these or each of those is its own little self-contained piece called a component. And you build these pieces once and you reuse and combine them to make your whole UI. Next thing is why we even use React. There are four major reasons to use it. So the first thing is that it is component based. You build from small reusable pieces, which keeps even big app organized and easy to maintain. The second thing is it is declarative. And this is the big mental shift. In plain JavaScript, you would manually grab elements and update them step by step. In React, what you do is you just change your data and React figures out the DOM which updates it for you. So you describe the what, not the how. And third thing is it is fast. React uses something called virtual DOM and virtual DOM just update only the part of the page that actually changed. And I'll brief you more about this on the next slide. The fourth major thing is it has a huge ecosystem and it has a massive community library for basically everything. So learning this genuinely opened the doors. Now, the prerequisites that are needed to even start with this series is that you should know the web basics, that is HTML, CSS. Then you should have a solid grasp on JavaScript fundamentals. And don't worry if you're not pro in JavaScript, it's okay. But you should be comfortable in reading and understanding or writing code in JavaScript at least. Then let's see how React works. So it works in three stages. That is, you have your components, that is the code you write, JSX and your data. And then you have virtual DOM. So what is virtual DOM? Actually, it is a lightweight copy of your user interface, which React keeps in the memory. And then we have the real DOM. This is the actual page that the user sees. So when your data changes, React updates that in your memory copy first and then it compares it to the previous version. It figure out for the smallest possible changes and then it will touch only those part of the real page. So that's why React is pretty much fast and smooth. Now let's set up your first app. So how you'll set up your React environment is you need to first install Node.js in your computer or laptop. Then you have to create the application. So we'll be using Beat, which is used to configure and set up the React environment. There is another method to do so, which is CRA, which stands for Create React App, but it is a classical method, so we'll stick to wheat. Then we'll install the packages and start the server. I'll also brief you about all the project structure in when we'll get started with the practical part. I guess we have done enough theory for now, and it's time that we get started with some practical work. So code along with me and let's get started. Before we begin, there is one prerequisite that you should have Node.js installed because it gives us npm, and once that is ready, we are good to go. So here I have already created a folder and opened it in VS Code. Now we'll do the rest together. So the first thing is we have to set up React. Now there are two main ways to set up React, which is through Vite and CRA. CRA, that is Create React App, is now deprecated, and so we will use Vite, which is faster and recommended. So you need to open your terminal and run this command: npm create white @latest. It is done to set up and configure the React application. It will ask a few things. Project name, you can name it my app. Then select a framework. Variant, we will be using JavaScript. Install with npm. So it will install some dependencies. Okay. So after installing, you can see that inside our folder, we have this folder created called My App, which contains some other folders and files. And I'll brief you about all these folders and files. Also, our server has been started, so you can open your localhost link on port 5173 and you will see a default React page. So now let's get into what these folders and files mean. Node modules folder contain all the dependencies over here. Then src folder is where we write our code. Public folder is for static assets like images. So, first I would like that you understand the flow, which is the most important part, that how React actually loads your app. You can think it of as a chain where one file hand over to the next. So it all starts with index.html file. Index.html file is the first file that the browser loads, and let me walk you all these files step by step, that how the hierarchy goes. So index.html is the starting point, and this is the very first file the browser loads. If you open it, you will see that it is almost empty. There is just one div element with the id root and a script tag which load the main.jsx file. So let's see what's inside main.jsx file. Page main.jsx does the connecting work, and it grabs the div id by root and from index.html and renders our app component inside it. It is wrapped inside strict mode, and strict mode is nothing but a helper that highlight potential problem during development. Then we see that it is rendering app. So let's check what's inside app.jsx file. So here you can see that it has long block of default code that React generated. So we can just delete it and write our own code over here. We don't need this code. We can also delete these styling files, these CSS files. Okay, so let's get started with writing our code in app.jsx. Okay, so there are two ways in which we can, write component, that is functional and class components. Class components are the older way, so we'll use a functional component all the way along. Now let's create a component which will display our own custom component called hello. So for that, we need to import the React library. It is not necessary to import it, but yeah, you can, or you can skip this statement. Next, we have to create a functional component. So I'll write function. I'm creating a functional component called app. And one thing to brief you here is that it is not necessary that the file name and the functional component name should be same, but it is a good convention to do so because it improves readability. So I have kept the file name and the functional component name same over here. And the second important thing is that we should write the functional component name in Pascal case, that is, it should begin with a capital letter. The reason we do so is to differentiate it with the HTML tags. Now that we have created a functional component, we will return um, our component hello inside it. So inside a div, I'll return my component hello. Yeah. Okay. So um, I returned the component hello, but as you can see, I don't have any component name hello. So let's make a component called hello. For this, we'll make a folder inside src, name it components, and inside components, we'll create a file named hello.jsx. Okay, so we have hello.jsx. Now you have to import the React library. You can skip this statement. Now we'll create a functional component. Before that, what we'll do in hello component is we will be printing our name. So for that, let's declare a variable called name and store a string value uh, that is my name. After storing my name, I'll create a functional component, and we can like it's a good practice, as I told, that the file name and the functional component name should be same. Once you create the functional component, the next thing you need to do is um, that you have to use an h1 tag to return our name, right? So we'll use a h1 tag and I'll return my name. Okay, so the reason I wrote this variable in curly braces is that we use curly braces whenever we want to write JavaScript inside JSX. That is the reason I wrote this in curly braces. Okay, so the next important thing I'll tell you is about export and import statement. Exporting a file means that we are making, or exporting a component means that we are making a component available to other file. So, I am using this hello.jsx component in app.jsx. So, I have to make my hello component available for other files to use. That is the reason I export this component, export default hello. After exporting this, I need to import it somewhere so that other file can access it. So I need to import hello as well. Okay, once that is done, we'll check that is app is used by other files. So we discovered that main is rendering app and it is importing, but we need to export it to make other files available to use it. So we'll export our app. Once we have exported, we are done with the code, and I hope you get the hierarchy, which is index.html is the file that the browser loads first. It renders main, then main.jsx file renders app file, and app file will render our component hello, and we have already made our component hello. Now we can start the server by moving to the correct directory. So our files and folder reside in this directory called myapp. We'll move to myapp, then we'll start our server by this command npm run dev, and we'll get a localhost link. We can check the port 5173 and you can see that it has printed hello Asia. So that was all about today. We would be learning more concepts, going to advance in React.js further in this series. Be with me till then. Take care and bye bye.